for tuning in with us on today. I'm Candy.
I'm Courtney.
And I'm Kendra Michelle.
And welcome to Chatty Catties. How are you ladies doing?
I am good. How are you?
Because I'm in the mommy club now. Just
throw
that
out there. Welcome.
So today's discussion, we will be talking about sex trafficking. So I've been hearing a lot about that going on in Chicago. I didn't know it was that heavy or that deep in our city. There was a guy who actually got arrested, and he's doing now 32 years for sex trafficking.
Correct.
And I would watch movies that were like the movie, what was it called? I don't know if you ladies seen the movie called Taken.
Yeah.
With Liam Neeson.
Yes. His daughter.
His daughter was taken, and she got, they put her away so she was a part of the,
Right.
the sex. Exactly. So, by me having a daughter, and she's only 4 months, but she's going to at some point grow up to be a teenager. I'm a little nervous. I mean, I'm not saying that she's going to go that route, but you know what I'm saying? You don't know how your kids, you can raise them to be the best that you want them to be, but it's scary because there's guys out there that can lure your daughter. You know what I mean? They can say certain things to them, to make them either want to do something like that or to, trick them into doing.
Because that's what it is. They're tricking them, and that's what a lot of people, it's not always as grand as Taken.
Yeah.
A lot of people are trafficked just in their common area, You're manipulated into continually engaging in these sexual activities that you don't want to, but usually they're isolated from their family and anybody that could pull them out of it, So it's like you're stuck. And you got this guy, and sometimes young men are trafficked, So it's like you have this person that's holding either housing, food, something of substance over you, and causing you to have to engage in these, activities. And they don't necessarily, they use violence, but it's a manipulative tactic. So you don't see it all the time and, out in the open. But you see the girl engaging in the activity, and that's why the girl is usually penalized or they're pulled as like they're a prostitute when they're being trafficked.
Yeah,
I work with a lot of girls that were trafficked, and brought, to the place where I work. And it's so many crazy stories, girls from as young as like 8, that have been put in these situations well beyond their years, and engaging in these, activities with these adult people,
Right, definitely.
And it's really sad, really, really sad.
So when they're doing the trafficking, whoever is in charge of that, they're getting paid.
They're basically pimping them out.
Yeah.
And a pimp is basically sex trafficking. They said most, just doing the research on the topic, most people, because you want to say girls because guys are being too, they've already experienced some type of sexual abuse in their life. Be it when they were kids, so now that they're maybe like teenagers, they might, start hanging with a crowd, and they're preyed on because whatever happened to them in the past. And I mean, I'm not for sure like how it sticks out, but there's something you can normally tell when somebody done been through something. Either they're a little more vulnerable or a little more naive or they're more of a follower. So a lot of them, are preyed on, and then they're coerced into this. Like, the young girls the pimp may use a older chick to, come on, you're going to do this, you're going to do it this one time, and he going to pay, they kind of teach them how to do it. And they're and then it might be one guy, and then it's like 2 guys, and next thing you know, they've lost count. And then at some point, it could be housing, like you said, they have something that they pretty much use to kind of control them. So if they're homeless, okay, well, if you're not doing this, you can't stay here. Well, they don't want to go out there, and it's the dead of winter. They don't want to go be on the streets. So they kind of have to do what they think they have to do in order to survive. They don't, but they make it seem like this is the only option. And then, you have those who are like being physically. So, you physically, mentally, emotionally, if you're being controlled, you tend to, kind of go along with things.
And that's a serious thing. I didn't know it was that heavy or that deep in Chicago.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like, it's not always, it's just girls that are in the wrong place at the wrong time. Sometimes it starts off as dating, where the guy, you think you're dating this older guy. Oh, I'm cool. He's buying me everything.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I don't get this at home. Not saying that I don't have a home, but maybe we don't have everything that I want.
Right.
And this guy's giving me everything I want. So this happens for a period of time, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now you got to do this to get that thing you were getting before. And it's like, well, he says he loves me. You know, I haven't heard that in a while, or this is my first time being in a relationship, so I think that's what you're supposed to do. You know, and I'm isolated because, you know, that's what he wants. I don't realize it. You know, I just think he cares about me. This is what you do for somebody you care about.
Wow.
You know?
And then the manipulation, you know, like, oh, if you really love me, or I do all of this for you, and you can't do this one thing for me, and one thing is, I need you to sleep with this guy, you know, and when you're young and you don't know that, like, she probably, or he, or whoever, probably feels like, but then they think about, they give me somewhere to stay, they do buy me this, they do.
But how do you protect your kids from something like that? You know what I'm saying?
Informing them about it.
Exactly, because there's no way to really...
Because I have a 4-month-old, you know what I mean? And I'm already overprotective of her, and then she's going to continue to grow up. Like, you have a teenager now, you know what I'm saying? And when my daughter, you know, turns your daughter's age, you know, it's like things are now just, they're not even getting better.
Right.
They're getting worse. So I'm like, whew, I have a daughter now.
You have to inform them. And you have to trust that what you're teaching them along the way will, when they get older and they're out there making decisions, that little voice that you've told them, don't do this, and you explain things to them, you hope that little voice will kick in. Because I'm sure most of them, anybody just kind of going through that, they came up, even if they weren't with their parents, a grandmother or whoever, I'm sure somebody told them, you don't do this, you don't do that. You hope that when they're in a situation or faced with a situation like that, that they'll make a better choice, they'll make a good choice. And like you say, sometimes it's not as black and white as it seems. You know, you give it a guy and you think, oh my God, he likes me and he's doing all this stuff, and you don't know that he's setting you up for the take. That once he gets you where you want, now he done pulled you away from your family, he's pulled you away from your friends, he's controlling you. And I mean, even now I talk to my daughter about just with guys and dating and everything about being controlled. They're young, they don't always know that they're being controlled. So if you're young and you start being controlled, then you add on the mental or the psychiatrical abuse, you know, if maybe he's mentally, because everything is not physical. They might be mentally, you know, you're not going to be nothing without me, or I made you, your family don't love you, they don't want you. How many times they come over here looking for you? Then you'll start thinking like, my mom hasn't been looking for me, or nobody has been looking for me. And maybe they have. Maybe they don't know you're there.
Or you're afraid to go home now because I've been gone for a couple days, and
now you think
you're afraid, and that turns into months. Now you're still with this guy because I can't go home now.
And now you're dependent upon him.
Exactly.
So now you have to do whatever you feel like you need to do in order to be able to keep a roof over your head, to be able to come back there. So there's a lot of ways I think that girls get involved with these guys, and I have no respect for a pimp. None. Because I feel like you prey on the weak in order to take them and sell them. That's not a man. Like, I just have no respect for them. But it happens every day. I mean, you see, you know, I remember this girl was like, you know, she was bragging about her pimp. And I'm just sitting there like, is she really bragging on my pimp?
She was bragging?
She was bragging on her pimp. Like, her pimp do this and do that. All this stuff for her. And I'm just like, and she was 19. I was like, sweetie, how old are you? She's like 19. I'm just like, wow.
Think about it. You got
brainwash.
Right, absolutely. And you got to psych yourself up. Like, I'm in this situation, I can't get out. So, yeah, he do all this for me. Maybe that makes her feel better for the moment. But you have to know that there's got to be some trauma that she is going through. You know, throughout that whole process. And only 19, because usually not usually, often they pick them up when they're younger, when you are more vulnerable and haven't experienced relationships and things like that, so that it carries you into a state where you're stuck because you're traumatized at that age, so you're stuck at that age mentally, and you think, you know, I have to, this guy is giving me so much, or this person is giving me so much, because I can't say that women don't participate in the whole. I watched a documentary where I guess the guy had trafficked the girl, and she was an adult now, well into her adult years, and he used her to manipulate the younger girl, and he made her say things to the girl and smack her, and you know, this is who you need to be with, you better do this, and he would like literally tell her to say this to her, and she would say it.
But you figure her brainwash started when she was younger, and they say a lot of times that, sometimes not always, but in situations, sometimes you become the predator. Like where she might have started as the victim, being in that life. As she got older, she took on the role of recruiting. So she's now doing the same thing that someone did to her, because she's been doing it so long that she's programmed. She thinks this is okay. This is the life she knows, especially if, they get them at like 11 and 12.
And that's what bothers me, I mean, it's bad altogether, but when you see the little girls in something like that, that's when I'm just shaking my head like, this has to stop.
Yeah. And that's why I always say to my daughter, just, you have time. Don't rush it, because you see little girls, they're young, dressing way too sexy.
And some of these girls don't look their age. They look very mature.
They're dressing way too sexy. They're doing all this stuff. And then a grown man, starts talking to you, and you think like, oh my God, he's a grown man. He ain't really supposed to be having no conversation with you.
Right.
But he sees the youth in you. He sees something in you that you don't see, that, oh, he really likes me. No, he's preying on you.
Right.
You got a nice body, you're young, but you're naive. You believe in everything he say because, oh my God, you're so caught up with, he likes you. He's paying attention. And I think you have to factor in all that too. Household. You don't know what they're being exposed to at home. You don't know if they're being watched out, looked after. She was gone all day. Her mom don't even check on her. So that's how they're able to get in these environments or around these people that are into things that they probably shouldn't be, because nobody's keeping an eye on her, nobody's checking on her, nobody's making sure that she's where she's supposed to be, keeping them as a kid. Instead, they're just kind of letting them, oh, she hung out all day. You don't know she hung at the pimp house all day. They just let her hang around right now. Then eventually you want to have a drink, you want to have a smoke, and she think like, oh my God, these are my friends. No, they setting you up. Because soon you'll become a part of it, and you can't keep drinking and smoking and having fun. So you got to do the rest of the stuff that everybody else is doing. So.
But I'm comfortable with this person, and he wouldn't steer me wrong because he's done all these good things.
He loves me,
He's done all these good things for me.
Or maybe at first she's like, oh, I'm drinking, I'm smoking, thinking that it's cool. To where she don't realize. Or he don't realize that it's taking control over you already, and then it's like at that point too late. You know what I'm saying?
I participated in a training to be able to work with the population I work with, and some of the things they said to look for in girls and boys that are trafficked is, them leaving for extended periods of time and then coming back with material things. The guys will get the girls' nails done and their hair done. They'll get them new clothes to just hold them over until they go out and do whatever they need to do again. So just be mindful of that. Be mindful of just them being isolated or really secretive about things. They just don't seem like themselves. So those are some really key things that they pointed out. Like, just make sure, like, if this person is responding differently, if they're more sexualized than they were before, if they have all of these, like, if they don't have a job, they don't have money, where do they get their nails done and their hair done?
You know what, too, also, I think social media. Kids nowadays, they have these iPads and all kinds of, their phones, and you don't know who they're calling the phone, you don't know who they're texting,
and talking to,
what they're doing.
Websites that have been gone through lawsuits and things like that because they were trafficking girls or soliciting for prostitution, and they're still active right now.
Right.
Wow.
Yep. It's really difficult to get those pages closed down. I watched multiple documentaries about one website that they went through billions of dollars of, trying to, blow up the whole operation. And it blew up. Everybody was aware of it, but it didn't shut it down.
Right.
Is there a reason why they didn't, what was
law,
there's always that gray tape.
A loophole, a gray, area. If you do this for me, you have to do it for everybody, even though this is definitely not healthy. This is definitely not productive, for the people on that page. There's a loophole.
Wow.
Those attorneys are really smart.
So do you ladies get, because my daughter is 4 months, but your kid's a little older. How do you ladies, I know, do you talk to
I talk to my daughter, I talk to her friends. My daughter gets aggravated with me because when she wants to go somewhere, I'll be like, okay, well, as soon as I talk to somebody, Mom. She's like, Mom, I'm sorry.
Because she's 17, right?
Right, so she just made 17, and I'm just like, look, they mom may not call, but I'm calling. And if I can't talk to a mom, then we're not going. Because, you don't know, your kids say, hey, we're going over so-and-so's house. Okay, and you might really be going over there, but their parents may not be there. Right. I remember when I was a teenager, we went over and hung out at my friend's house plenty of times and their parents weren't there. And my mom and dad didn't know they weren't there and were gone all day. We were there, and yes, we had boys over there. So I already know what comes with being a teenager. This generation to me seems a little more advanced.
Absolutely.
And into a lot more than we were.
That's true. That's
so
true.
I talked to her. You know, she just can't go, like, if somebody's house, I've never met the parent, I don't know them. Can I spend, ain't no spend a night, because
it
I
starts
don't
at
know
home. It does.
the parent.
It starts
You know,
at
like-
home. Because back then, I think they were more stricter then, or more strict then than they are now.
Right.
Because a lot of kids today, I think, have too much freedom.
Yeah.
And it was a village. You got.
Right.
I'm telling on you. If you
Right.
did something you weren't supposed
Somebody
to.
see you, they can say something. It's the neighbor, right? Nowadays, you can't say nothing to people. Kids,
Yeah.
mama be wanting to fight, like I
Or
got
the
the whoop.
kid want to do something to you,
Right.
then you have to go. It's
Right.
like, "No, I'm not trying to fight you. Your kid was doing something wrong. You know
Right,
what I mean?
exactly.
Like,
Your little son was all in my face, so
yeah.
Now you can have a child that's not in a bad home, but you talk to them, they can still go that route.
Absolutely.
So it's just that it's just a matter of them listening.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
And it's a matter of, I mean, like I said, each situation is different. You know, they have modeling companies. They're a modeling agency. Oh, we want all the pretty girls. And a lot of times, not all of them, I don't want to say all of them, but
Right.
there's some that are scams. They get these
How do you
girls.
know which ones are like, the scams?
I mean,
because
of
I've
course you
seen
got-
some, and I'm like,
You've seen some, I mean, when I was younger, I was doing the modeling. You've gone there and you see, when they have an audition, 100 girls standing out there. And then you've gone to some where it's like in a building, in a little small apartment. It's like, this look real
it's a
questionable.
little funny.
So, I mean, you have to pick and choose. And then it's like, oh, well, we can represent you. They'll tell you all this good stuff. But then I'm sure behind the scene, they start, if you have to go do anything like expose yourself, take your clothes
Right.
off, anything, that right there is a red flag. Or you get there and it's a room full of nothing but men, there's nobody else there, and you got to do all this. There's things that I'm sure should stick out. But then there's those girls who just dreaming like, I just want to make it to Hollywood. Okay, well,
You teach your daughter, like, even
Right.
in those instances, you can be ambitious, but take somebody with you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
At
don't go
least.
by yourself.
So they could see what you can't see because you're so starstruck. They could be like, this don't look good, let's go. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Teach your child, like, those types of things that are red flags.
Right.
My daughter is really little right now, but I still am like, don't sit on, men's laps,
Right. Nope.
even relatives, I'm particular about that,
Right.
know. Getting undressed, make sure you do that in the privacy of your room, things like that, so that at least she knows there's boundaries, right now, early on,
And that's really all you can do is just teach them.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, I'm sure we all went through. I've never been in a situation that I didn't hear what my mom and dad told me.
Right.
Like that voice, like, don't do this, or if you're in a situation or you're in trouble, you remember what was told to you. Now, whether you apply it at that moment, you still remember. So you just have to instill.
Yeah.
Talk to her, tell her this is wrong, or if you somewhere in a situation or you see a young girl who's being, pimped and y'all out. My dad was really good at that. I was born and raised in the suburbs, Evanston. So when we would go to the city, we'd go out west, go to Jewtown back in the days. When we would see stuff, I'd be like, Dad, why that lady walking down the street like that? He'd be like, he would tell me this is what happens when you're doing drugs and this is happening. That guy, because I was like, I laugh because I didn't know this for a long time. When you're walking down the street with a guy and the guy gets on the outside, and it's like, why do you keep walking behind me? So I guess when you're a pimp, the chick walks on the outside, and the man when the pimp, he walks on the inside because he's basically advertising.
parading her, yeah.
So when we seen that one day, my dad explained it to me. I was just like, how do you know? He's like, you see how he's walking? And it was an older guy. We was out west, so he's dressed in a suit, whatever. And she was a young-looking girl. And it was summertime, but she was kind of dressed a little kind of ratchet, whatever. But he was her pimp. I would have never known that because I didn't know that. But my dad explained to me. So we sat there, and I just kept watching. And I saw he kept her on the outside. He didn't walk in front of her. He walked behind her so that if a car rolled by and they seemed like they was paying attention, it was like he was ready to give them that.
And she better get in that car.
You know what I'm saying?
If
So
she lets them pass,
if he gave they gave that look, that meant, it's a go. So that's how they would do it. And I didn't know that, but my dad was really good at pointing that out to us.
Wow.
So you kind of like, it's like a teacher moment. Sometimes some things are going to happen when you can teach your daughter, like, you see this and that, you kind of like, use that opportunity to let them see it and explain, like, this is what happens or this is what that is. So,
and that's really cool that he was that candid with you, because some people are so hesitant because it's such a taboo topic to, express that to their children. But sometimes you got to be straightforward and candid so that
they can know, right?
They learn that.
Well, coming from Evanston, and I'm like, Dad, like, this chick was like at the corner naked. I'm just like, oh my God, like, we're kids, like, she naked. My dad's like, like, and when cars would come by, like, she would get up and, I'm like,
and that's the perfect example of
prostitution.
How girls get exposed. You weren't exposed to it before, you didn't know anything about it. Oh, I'm going to spend time with my friend in Chicago. Boop. End up getting picked up by a guy. Oh my God, he's so awesome. And then you
see, I used to hate it when my mother, she had rules, all kinds, and she was, I don't want to say strict, but she had her rules. Back then I was like, oh, I can't do nothing. I can't go nowhere. I can't have a boyfriend. I can't do nothing, But now that I'm older, I appreciate it because it made me more disciplined. I'm very observant. I'm very skeptical. Now I have a daughter.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate it now. So it definitely does start at home. And like I said before, even if you're brought up in a decent home, your kids, they have to, they have to still listen.
Exactly.
So by me having, even though she's only 4 months, she don't really know right now.
Yeah, but she's gonna grow up.
She's gonna grow up, and my husband and I, we're like on it.
Yeah.
But we're on it with her.
In today's time, I feel like you have to be. One of the things I remember when my daughter was little, I used to call her privates feathers. We never, I never called it, the word vagina, penis. This is your feather. Nobody touches your feathers. I have all brothers and my dad. They've always been around, but I've never let nobody wash her up but me and my mom. So she's at my mom's house. Grandma give you a bath. My dad would go in there and run it, but my mom would go in there, and it's just always been that way. She come home one day. I pick her up from daycare or school, and she's in the car, and she's like, "Mommy, you told me a story." I'm like, "No, I did." She's like, "Girls have vaginas, boys." I was so pissed.
How old was she?
She about 5, 6 years old, but she knew feathers. She didn't know a vagina.
I know.
She didn't know a boy had a penis. So some little classmate told her what the real,
You know what? I would be okay with
that
telling.
would have been my daughter, because she knows.
Yeah, I would be okay with telling my daughter. I don't know. I would be fine with telling her though, saying
my problem
vagina or penis.
I didn't want her, because she was just like, boys have penis, girls have vaginas, and these are breasts. I said, well, we call them feathers. Because it was almost like the little girl made me a liar, because she was saying, this is not a feather, because she's in there. That's not a vagina. This is a feather, because that's what we call her. So I explained it to her. And then I went to school the next day, to daycare immediately. Yeah. I want to know who the little girl. So her mom's like, well, I don't lie to my daughter. I tell her everything, whatever. But your daughter is exposing my daughter to something that I didn't want her to know.
Right.
I didn't need her to know a little boy had a penis.
Right.
And a little boy and girl don't have the same thing.
Right.
Everybody got feathers, because that's what we call them.
And that's what you do in your household.
Exactly. That's one of those things where your child could learn about something that you may not tell her. I may not tell her. So it just comes with being a kid. Because like you said, you talk to your daughter. Yeah. You explain to her. And that's fine. Kids share information. Yeah. Did you know? And
they are smart.
Yeah, and that's
kids are very smart
she's so
today.
Inquisitive, and I didn't want her to be intrigued by somebody else telling her, we're going to explain what it is. Right. We don't go around talking about it. But these other parts, when she washes up, I name the body part. Yeah. Wash this, wash that. So, it's whatever you do in your household that helps you train your child how you want them to be trained, but society influences.
Oh, and it definitely grew them up a lot faster.
Man.
Sometimes I really wish that there was a way, like, if someone's been on Facebook or social media, like, there's like a 3-hour max that you could be on social media in a day. Like,
they're growing too fast today.
I just feel like if they could limit the amount of time. So, like, if you've been on social media for 3 hours in the morning, you exceeded your 3 hours for the day. You have to wait to the next day. And then
you have an iPhone, you can set screen time, right? For your social media.
I did not know you could do that.
Yeah, I set mine.
Talk to me after the show.
Yes.
I just feel like social media, like even with my daughter, like I like the fact that she likes social media, but I don't, because I feel like social media, it's like a fake life and image that they make. I went over the list of the top 10 people on social media. None of them, they showed none of them look like their real selves. Like from childhood, high school to now. And they've spent all this money. So these, they're looking at this like, oh, she's pretty, her nose is perfect, she got this. Yeah. You don't know that she done spent $50,000 on her body. That's not what she really looks like. And that makes it put pressure to me on the kids to look this way. It's like, I don't look like this, then I'm not pretty. You are pretty. My daughter said the weirdest thing to me last night. She says, Mom, growing up, I really didn't like being dark-skinned. I had a problem with it. She said, but now that I'm a little bit older, I like being dark. I appreciate that. She said, now I see what you and Grandma always meant. And I was just like, okay. I never knew that she had a problem with her complexion. Because I love being dark. I have no problem with it. But my mom's dark, and she's always like, you're beautiful since I was a little girl. So I didn't feel inferior to light-skinned girls or lighter girls, because my mom always told me that, like, as far as I can remember, she's like, no, you're beautiful. Yeah. You're beautiful just like your mom. Black is beautiful. You know what I'm saying? So
and it was normal, so you probably didn't feel the need to
say it to my daughter. So I didn't know that she felt that way. I do know that they tend to like lighter complexions, but her making that statement to me. So again, social media, because they feel like the lighter girls and the lighter, they just felt like that was better. So when she said that, I was just like, wow, I never knew that.
Yeah, I'm seeking approval on social media. Now I'm seeking approval outside of social media, because mentally it's all approval.
But see, with that's the whole, like with the social media in terms of the sex trafficking. You have kids that are really young with phones now and iPads that know how to work them. And now I'm trying. Me and my husband, we haven't fully decided it yet. But we're like, do we want her to have an iPad? Do we want her to have, you don't want to keep your kids like, sheltered or put them in a box, because they're going to experience life. Right. They have to, they're going to experience life at some point. But it's like, there's so much going on. It's scary.
It is.
Feel that
it's
way too.
scary.
No, and it is.
But at the same time, like I say, you don't want to keep them sheltered.
Right.
You want them to go out and experience things and sometimes make mistakes.
Of course. And they're supposed to.
It's a
but depending on, I always say you can make mistakes, but you don't want to make a costly mistake. Something that can alter the rest of your life.
You're not with your kids 24/7 either. You don't know who their friends are.
Right.
You don't know necessarily what they're doing. You don't know who they're texting to. You don't know what they're doing on their iPad.
Right. And there's always one that's a little too grown.
Exactly.
So even if you think they're watching one thing, like they tailor these shows sometimes, and they're still seeing stuff that they shouldn't be seeing when you thought they were watching something else. You know.
I mean, there's always a way to get around it. And like I said, it kind of goes back to, you just have to instill it in your kids. You have to tell them, this is what happens when you do that. And if you don't, well, those who do, go down the wrong paths, they probably were told, but just the wrong guy, the wrong friend, the wrong place, the wrong time, it can happen.
I'm all about open communication, because there's a fine line. You want to instill rules and boundaries, but not to the point where they don't feel like they're comfortable talking to you, because that's part of it. Because you cannot shelter them from everything going on in the world.
You can't.
But if they're sharing things with you, then you can see, or you can pick up on, like, okay, this is not right. Something's weird about this,
Yeah.
So
and if they got somebody to talk to, my daughter doesn't always tell me everything. She sometimes tells my mom, because my mom will just listen.
She's at that age.
But my mom will let me know. And then one thing I like that my dad always did, he always explained stuff to us. This is what happened, which taught us a lot about, just what to look forward to, or when I would see something, I would know what it is, because he explained it to us. This would happen when you do this. I'm like, Dad, why she look like that? He would explain it to me, so that when I came encounter with it or a situation similar, I remember what he said. Like, okay.
Well, there is a hotline that you can call if there is someone out there that may be going through sex trafficking, or may have some part of it, or if you just someone you want to express your thoughts to, or someone you want to talk to, there's a national human trafficking hotline that you can call, and it's 1-888-373-7888. So if you're afraid to talk to your family or to your friends, you can call that number.
If you know somebody that you think is being trafficked.
Right.
And if you don't know what trafficking is, Google it and see if it applies to your situation or someone's situation. They may not know it's a sex trafficking.
So definitely call that number. And again, if, like she said, if it's someone you think that may be, going through something like that, just please call that number, and I'm sure that they can help you.
And help you get in a safe environment.
So, we are going to show some brotherly love to our brotherly love segment here. And who are we going to acknowledge?
We are going to acknowledge Nipsey Hussle.
Yes.
Nipsey Hussle, who was a rapper, an actor, a philanthropist, and he was actually very well known for his community work he did in Los Angeles. So as a rapper, he took his platform and not only used it for rap, but he opened up a community center, which I believe the name is Too Big to Fail. He was actually in the process of working on 5 other projects when his life was shortened this past year. He is just he was one of those guys that he wanted to make Los Angeles a better place. He did something that was never able done before. He got the heads of the Bloods and the Crips together to basically discuss stopping the violence. And a couple of days he got killed. I think it's the next day or maybe a couple of days later. He had a meeting set up with the mayor and the captain of the police stations to basically address issues in Los Angeles. So
they knew him well.
Yes, he was very well known for all the work he did and all the people he was trying to help. So big ups to Nipsey Hussle.
We salute you.
He's
Hussle.
definitely that was a life that was shortened too soon. He was definitely making major moves in California to uplift his community. He put everything back into his community.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are out of time.
Yes,
but once again, you guys, you can follow us on Facebook by typing in Chatty Caddies. Also follow us and reach out to us on Instagram by typing in Chatty_Caddies. And that's all for today, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.